That isn't something that I ever learned because I was interested in the technical, but I was interested in like, well, why am I not getting the smoothness of a color transition?
How long did it take you to fully grasp all the camera settings?
There are a lot of cameras that I couldn't run. Actually, most cameras I couldn't run by myself at this point. I'm very reliant on my camera team, for sure. I am always familiar with how different camera sensors react to light and color, skin tones, the noise floors. Like I pay attention to the sensor and the reactivity, but often I am not familiar with building out a full camera with its wireless follow. I couldn't put together a wireless follow focus. And my camera team, I'm reliant on them for a number of things, but for sure like my first AC, Bryant, I've been working with him for years. I'm reliant on him for putting together our camera. Even when we're ordering equipment, I do broad strokes. I'm like, I want these lenses, these filters, I prefer this monitor. But in terms of the cables and all the follow focus, our wireless, like I have some leanings, but really I leave that to him, and your camera team ends up becoming a huge part of your whole process. And I'm for sure that way. And letting go of some of the technical elements was tricky for me because I felt like, well, wait a minute, I'm the cinematographer. I'm supposed to know everything. And I was like, oh, no. I need to know how the image will end up, how we get there and the gear that's on the camera. Some of it matters to me because I have, if I know it's handheld, I'm going to have different needs as opposed to if I know I'm going to be on dolly and all that. But in terms of the settings or switching things over to, now the Alexa Mini, I've been shooting with that camera predominantly for the last few years. I'm very familiar with that just because of the number of times. But, if I were shooting on, let's say, a Sony Venice or a Red, it's been a while since I've shot on a Red, I would probably need help changing the color temperature or the ISO or frame rate or all that. And I have no problem asking for help with that stuff. I don't feel like that's part of my job description. I need to understand it. I need to understand what I'm looking to get out of it. But getting there, I'm content to let my ACs help guide me.
What technical part of the craft took you the longest to learn?
Yeah, because the cinematography really is technical. And actually, there's a feature that I may be shooting, who knows now, but that we might shoot on film. And I am excited, but also very nervous about it because I was trained up on film, but to light boldly or dramatically for film is much scarier than for digital, because with all our cameras now, we have a monitor and you can see what the image is going to look like right now. On film, you can't do that. You have your light meter out and you're talking about like contrast ratios and how much light is here versus here, and where you can, I'm now used to, I light off of my monitor. I bring a light meter to set. I almost never touch it. I'm really using the monitor. And to go back to film scares me a little bit because I want to make sure I can still be bold with my choices, but I have to make sure that it's not too contrasty or too flat. Like it's really, so I think it's funny, in a way, the thing that now intimidates me or makes me nervous on the technical side is the thing that I learned first. And we've just, because of technology, have gotten away from that. And now to go back to it, I'm like, oh, I don't have the safety of knowing what my image is going to look like right away. You have to go back to your own faith and understanding the latitude of a film stock and contrast ratios, how it reacts to color. So I think that's the thing that right now probably makes me the most nervous on a technical level. But I think there's also, there's all kinds of things like how do bit rates and, like a lot of our DSLRs for their color, it's like 422, and I'm used to shooting 444 on an Alexa Mini. And for a long time, I had no concept of what that is. And now I understand, oh, this is like the way it captures color. And why that's important to me is because it allows for gradation between like different like blues in a sky. Like it starts usually by the horizon. It's a little gray, gets a little bluer, and then deeper blue as you go up. And different camera sensors can't handle that because of the way they capture color. So that isn't something that I ever learned because I was interested in the technical, but I was interested in like, well, why am I not getting the smoothness of a color transition? So that stuff has come to me kind of just by shooting. It's not like I sat and was studying books and got it that way. It's just kind of learning because of really broken images and how do I not break this image next time, that kind of thing.
Were you one of these kids that used to take things apart to see how they worked?
I was always curious, so I would take things apart, but not to see how they worked. I would take things apart because I was just like, I wonder what the inside of this looks like. Sounds like a serial killer. But yeah, no, I would not call myself a technical cinematographer. Now, that might not be true. I may actually be, and I realize sometimes like, oh, I know more stuff than I thought. But the leader of it is always like, how does this image feel? Like I look at when new cameras get announced, I will look at the specs. But what I've learned is that like listing the specs on paper kind of don't matter to me. Now they give me a baseline. They help me understand frame rates. How will it do in low light? What is its native ISO? Like there are technical things that I now am very familiar with and I understand what that means. But really, I need to look at footage because the way that they capture motion, the way that they capture skin tones, the way that they like the highlights, the way they blow out, like those are, so the technical information of cameras has always been secondary to my aesthetic reaction to it, my emotional reaction to the image, for sure.
Yeah, I think you probably do know a lot more than you think, but that maybe goes along with the humility, so.
Well, I also think it's just years of doing it. Like some of it just has come because I haven't understood why something is a certain way, and so it's out of necessity. But yeah, I would say out of necessity. Like I'm just like, what is this? And so I've been in it for so long. So it's I think that knowledge has just come almost through osmosis, just through wading through it for so long.